Hello and welcome to Supposedly Fun. My name is Greg. If you know me, you know I love book lists. So today we are here to look at the BBC Culture list of the 12 best books of 2025 so far. So I love these mid-year check-ins with best of lists because it helps me think about what I might want to prioritize for the rest of the year. And I also like looking at best of lists and things like that because it helps me discover books that might have slipped by. It helps me challenge my thinking about books that I maybe blew off the first time around and things like that. These are not intended to be reviews. This is just my reaction to the books and whether or not I am interested in reading these books. Your reactions may be a little bit different, and that's a good thing. So if you disagree with me, that's fine. Let me know and maybe challenge my perception of one of these books as we go through. Hi, Editing Greg is jumping in because I forgot to mention that this list, the BBC Cultures list, was sent to me by Kevin Lumbert. So thank you to Kevin. I can't believe I forgot to say that the first time around, but I'm glad I caught it now. On with the rest of the video. So we have 12 books to get through. Let's dive right in and start talking about this list. I am going to skip the first book, so I'm only really going to talk about 11 of these because one of them is an author that I don't like to talk about on my channel, which is my prerogative. It's my channel. Not trying to cancel her. I just don't really like to support her books. So we're going to blow past the first book on this list to talk about We Do Not Part by Han Kang. Here's what they say about it. We Do Not Part was released in English translation in February, although it was originally published in Hong Kong's native South Korea in 2021, and therefore helped contribute to the body of work that won her the 2024 Nobel Prize for Literature. Drawing comparisons with her Booker Prize-winning bestseller, The Vegetarian, and similarly blurring the lines between dreams and reality, We Do Not Part explores the relationship between two women, Kyunga and Inseon, while uncovering a violent and forgotten chapter in Korean history. The LA Times calls We Do Not Part, quote, exquisite and profoundly disquieting, which to me sums up pretty much all of Han Kang's work. It writes of Han Kang, quote, her singular ability to find connections between body and soul and to experiment with form and style are what makes her one of the world's most important writers, end quote. This is a book that I would like to catch up to. I think I have been hesitant to read more of Han Kang ever since I read The Vegetarian because I had such a visceral reaction to that book, kind of like a knee-jerk where it was like, wow, that is kind of upsetting. So I've been very hesitant to dive in. I think when I feel ready to do another one of her books, hopefully this year, I do think that We Do Not Part would be a good place to go. It feels like maybe because it is the newest translation in English, and by the way, it does not say who the translator is in this article, so I tried to go into this list as fresh as possible, as always. So if I pronounced the names incorrectly, and since I don't have the name of the translator here, I apologize. Those are things I would have tried to do better on had I not been going into this list as blind as possible. But yeah, I feel like maybe because it is the newest book, this is the one that people are kind of coalescing around because the recommendations that I have gotten for where to go after The Vegetarian have been kind of all over the place. She's an author that people respond to in different ways. And she has a lot of books that have not been translated into English yet. So there's a lot more to come from Han Kang, especially now that she is a Nobel laureate, because I'm willing to bet a lot of those untranslated works will start making their way over into English and therefore be accessible to people like me who don't read in any other language. The next book is Stag Dance by Tori Peters. Now, I was sort of curious about Detransition Baby, which was Tori Peters' previous book, but it feels like it's a bit of a cilantro book. You either love it or you hate it. And I have not engaged with it at that because I would be curious at some point to see what I think of it. But the reactions that are more negative to that book make me question it a little bit. Enough that time has gone by and I have not read it. So that there is an element of hesitation for Stag Dance as well. I haven't heard as much about it as I have about Detransition Baby, but let's do what they say about it and go from there. The follow-up to Torrey Peters' critically acclaimed debut, Detransition Baby, is a collection of tales, each with an intriguing premise, ranging in genre from romantic to dystopian to historical. In The Masker, a young partygoer on a hedonistic Las Vegas weekend must choose between two guides, a mystery man or a veteran trans woman. In The Chaser, an illicit boarding school romance surfaces. In the titular Stag Dance, a group of lumberjacks in the 19th century working deep in the forest plan a winter dance, with some of the men volunteering to attend as women. The Chicago Review of Books compares the collection favorably to Peters' debut, describing the stories as, quote, seductive, dazzling, and history-making once again, end quote. The Guardian is similarly effusive. Quote, the pieces are meticulously crafted, especially Stag Dance, with its deft pacing and almost operatic denouement. The writing is mischievous rather than sanctimonious, it adds, and it is clear she is having a great deal of fun. So, Stag Dance in particular sounds kind of interesting. So maybe this would be a better access point for me. Read Stag Dance and then think about whether or not I want to go back and read Detransition Baby. I think that feels like a good path for me. If you are a fan of Detransition Baby and think I could reconsider or should reconsider, let me know in the comment section down below, because I have been interested in it, so I'm swayable, I guess. But I feel like Stag Dance would be a safe place to start for me. Again, if you disagree, let me know. The next book is Theft by Abdulrazak Gurna. This is another Nobel Prize laureate, and one I have not read yet, so one I would like to get to at some point. Their description is, quote, a quietly powerful demonstration of storytelling mastery, end quote, writes The Observer of Theft, the 11th novel from the 2021 winner of the Nobel Prize for Literature. Set against the backdrop of post-colonial East Africa, situated between Zanzibar and Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, Theft is a coming-of-age tale exploring the inner lives of three teenagers, Kareem, Badar, and Fauzia, who bond despite growing up in very different circumstances. Quote, a tightly focused, beautifully controlled examination of friendship and betrayal, end quote, writes The Economist, while the Wall Street Journal praises Gurna's restraint, adding, quote, he builds his fictional worlds cumulatively, giving equal regard to the many things that make up experience. There are no single truths in this steady, mature novel, which may be why it feels so true as a whole, end quote. There had been another book of Abdulrazak Gurna's that I had been thinking of doing as an entry point into his work, and I don't remember the title of it, but Theft sounds like it could be an interesting starting point, so maybe I'll think about doing a more recent book of his before going back and exploring another, because that description does really appeal to me. So maybe that's a book I'm going to have to catch up to in the second half of 2025. Now we get to a book I have not heard of at all. Universality by Natasha Brown. Natasha Brown's celebrated 2021 debut, Assembly, was a short, precise novel and a dissection of class and race that was shortlisted for several awards. In her follow-up, she examines how identity politics is cynically deployed, satirizing on the way cancel culture and the worlds of publishing and journalism. I don't understand that sentence. Satirizing on the way cancel culture and the worlds of publishing. Oh, okay. I don't know what on the way cancel culture means. Interesting. Maybe I'm just having a moment. The story begins with a dubious article attempting to unravel a mystery involving an illegal rave, a missing gold bar, and a banker. Soon the novel moves on to the fallout from the expose and the knock-on effect of the people affected by the crime. Quote, it's all enormous, nasty fun, end quote, says the literary review. Quote, infidelity, exploitation, and hatred abound. Brown's main purpose is to satirize and skewer the socioeconomic forces that have shaped life in the UK since the late 2010s, end quote. Universality is very funny, says the New Statesman. Quote, Brown is an astute political observer, easily dismembering cancel culture and our media circus. I don't think that appeals to me. And, on a base level, it does feel like it is very involved in socioeconomic forces of the UK in the late 2010s, and I live in the United States. So I feel like satire like that sometimes requires a lot of familiarity, and I just won't have that. But also, I don't know about a satire that dismembers cancel culture and media circuits. I mean, media circuits, sure, but if you have read this book, I would love to hear what you thought of it. So let me know in the comment section down below. I'm inclined to focus on other books on this list first. Next is a book that has come recommended to me. It's The Names by Florence Knapp. Knapp's debut novel begins in 1987 as Cora Atkin is pondering 3 different names for her newborn baby boy. Gordon, after her abusive doctor husband, Bear, the choice of her older daughter, Maya, or her preference, Julian. With the premise that each potential name offers a unique destiny, the narrative splits therein, revisiting its characters at 7-year intervals in a manner that recalls Sliding Doors. And despite its dark subject matter, critics have praised The Names for its upbeat, uplifting effect. The Standard writes, quote, Knapp's deftly woven story is at once a big, bold experiment, a playful exercise in nominative determinism, a meditation on fate and coming-of-age story, end quote, while the Washington Post calls the novel, quote, a profound, deeply compassionate examination of domestic abuse, end quote, which is startlingly joyful and paced like a thriller. As I said, this is a book that has been recommended to me a couple of times recently. First by Danny, who is That Bookish Bear on Instagram. And he and I usually have similar taste in books, so I have been curious to catch up to this book. And then several other people recommended it to me as well. So this is one that I had already been thinking that I should catch up to in 2025. And once I got on the other side of Pride Month, which by the time you are watching this will pretty much be there. I'm filming this ahead because I will be on vacation when you watch this. Just FYI. So that is definitely one that I would be interested in reading. And if you have read it, I would really be interested in hearing what you thought of it. So let me know in the comments. The next one. Oh, actually, this is fun. I have a copy of it right here on my desk because I just did a book haul where I talked about this book, and for some reason I put the others away and forgot it. It's The Emperor of Gladness by Oisín Vuong. So the fact that I got myself a copy of it should let you know right away that I am interested in reading this one. I was a little bit mixed on Unearthed Were Briefly Gorgeous, which was Oisín Vuong's previous novel, his debut novel. He had been a writer of poetry before that, and I did read the poetry collection that he released in between Unearthed Were Briefly Gorgeous and The Emperor of Gladness. I wonder if Unearthed Were Briefly Gorgeous was just hyped to a point that I expected so much that my expectations were unrealistic once I actually picked it up. Part of me also wonders if I would respond better to one of his books if I read it in print. I listened to the other two on audio, so I think when I read this one, I am going to try reading it in print and see if that changes anything. I also kind of wonder if Oisín Vuong's writing is just a little too elaborate for me and verging on flowery. A lot of people don't think that, but that might be what I think. But I'm very curious to try the book, and let's see what they say about it. Oisín Vuong's second novel, The Emperor of Gladness, quote, may well be the first millennial great American novel, end quote, according to the Art Review. It is, quote, perfectly tuned, end quote, and as wide in scope as it is quiet and tender. It tells the story of Hai, a young gay man who has run away from home and his coming of age in the rural Northeast in Obama-era U.S. It also explores his friendship with Grazina, an elderly Lithuanian widow with dementia. Hai finds work in a fast dining chain and bonds with his mixed bag of new colleagues, who discover connection in their past hardships. The Emperor of Gladness is, quote, a fine-grained social panorama driven by the developing camaraderie of an ensemble cast bonded in precariousness and pain, end quote, says The Observer. So, yes, this is definitely something I want to read. And again, the fact that I got myself a copy of this book probably hinted in that direction. And I feel like I should mention, not all the time can you hear Teddy snoring, but he is passed out on the floor behind me and snoring. So if there's a noise, you're not crazy. It's Teddy snoring. So this is definitely a book that I would like to catch up to in the second half of 2025. And we'll see when that happens. And how fun that I just happened to have it right there. Okay, next is a book called Eden's Shore by Oisín Fagan. I really hope I pronounced that correctly. So, Irish people, let me know how I did in the comments down below. I am unfamiliar with this book, so let's see what this is about. A tremendous romp of a tale, this brutal seafaring epic's protagonist is Angel Kelly, a late 18th century slaver headed to Brazil with the goal to found a utopian community. Chaos ensues, and he washes up on the shores of an unnamed Spanish colony. With grisly attention to detail, Fagan spares little in describing the violence of the slave trade with the blackest of humor and an experimental approach to form. Quote, Eden's Shore is a rich and beautifully told tale of toxic adventurism, end quote, writes the TLS. While the Financial Times writes, quote, Alexander's capacious performance is made to encompass the visceral, physical experiences of the journey, disease, sex, seasickness, violence, and its more cerebral aspects in which the politics, philosophy, and idealistic utopianism of the day find expression, end quote. I would definitely say if you have read this, I would be really interested in hearing what you have to say. It sounds intriguing, but I think this is a case where I am interested, but want to know more before I commit to it. So what I will probably do is check some additional reviews once I'm done filming this, and then see if it's even available in the United States and think about whether or not I want to read it from there. And feedback from you would actually really help in that process. So let me know what you thought of it in the comment section down below. And this is another fun reason, just to go back to the beginning a little bit, why I love doing these books, these lists in videos, because it is a tool of discovery for me. I had never heard of this book, and it does sound intriguing, so it could very well end up on my pile of possibilities for the rest of 2025. And hopefully they can also function as a tool of discovery for you. So if you are interested in this book, now you know about it. And hopefully guidance from some people who have read it in the comments will help all of us. And again, if you see a book that is not on this list that you think should be in contention, let's make the comments another place for discovery. So use them. And let's just kind of jump to the next one, which is Dream State by Eric Puckner. Actually, I did know this one was going to be on the list because it was in the featured image. And that immediately jumped out to me because this is a book that is set in Montana. So when it came out, there was a huge thing about it. And I think it was blessed by Oprah, but I could be wrong about that. And for some reason, even though the premise of it sounded interesting to me, it just completely fell off my radar. Maybe once it was released, things kind of quieted down. So it is nice to see it on one of these lists, kind of bubble it back up to the top. And I have actually been considering whether or not I want to attend an author event with Eric Puckner that is going to be in my hometown of Missoula in August. So I think I'm going to, but that's an August problem. Let's see what they say about the book, because I remember it sounding intriguing, but I honestly don't remember what it's about. A multi-generational family saga, Dream State explores themes of love, betrayal, and the effects across generations of the choices we make. Why did I not immediately jump on this book when it was released? Because that is the most Greg bait sentence we have read in this entire list of BBC Culture's Best of 2025 so far. A multi-generational family saga. I'm into it. Dream State explores themes of love. Into it. Betrayal. Into it. The effects across generations of the choices we make. Super into it. So yeah, I think that just clinched it. I'm going to try to get a copy of this book and maybe definitely do that author event. There's a plane going overhead. I don't know if you can hear it, but it's there. let's do the rest of the description, but I'm already totally having a fanboy moment about this. Beginning in 2004, the story is set in a rapidly warming, fictionalized version of Montana's Flathead Valley. Beautiful spot in Montana, by the way. A bit complicated because, let's just say, politics can be rough, but a lot of tourists go there as well. And it's a gorgeous area. So anyway, a fictionalized version of Montana's Flathead Valley, with the lake at the valley's center, the nucleus of the story. Dream State traverses 5 decades and, quote, gradually coalesces into a family history that feels monumental, end quote, says LitHub. The effect is hypnotically telescopic, a vision of people we come to know across decades. Puckner's manipulation of time is among this novel's most magical elements. His narration, quote, can slip from funny to harrowing as fast as young man can ski to his death, end quote. Oprah Winfrey selected Dream State as a book club pick. I was right, describing Puckner as a master storyteller and the book as, quote, an exquisite examination of the most important relationships we have in our lives, end quote. So, cli-fi is a little bit difficult for me because it can tip towards speculative fiction, and I don't tend to do well with speculative fiction. It can also tend toward being like ripped from the headlines, and things that are kind of ripped from the headlines or like cautionary tales about the modern world tends to trip my anxiety. And given the way the world is like burning right now, that can be a struggle for me. But I am pretty sold on this book. I think I'm absolutely going to catch up to it in the second half of 2025. If I remember correctly, it's also a brick of a book, but that would be a fun project to do later on this year. Now we have The Dream Hotel by Leila Lalami. Longlisted for the 2025 Women's Prize for Fiction, Lalami's 5th novel is a nightmarish speculative tale about the terrifying reaches of technology and surveillance. As Sarah returns to LAX airport from a conference, she is stopped by the Risk Assessment Administration, who determine, using data in her dreams, that she is about to harm her husband. She's transferred to a retention center to be monitored for 21 days, where she finds, along with other dreamers, that her journey back to her family becomes more and more out of reach. Quote, a scarily credible vision, end quote, The Spectator writes of The Dream Hotel, continuing that it taps deftly into the terrors of our time, while The Economist calls it, quote, a riveting tale of the risks of surrendering privacy for convenience, end quote. I have read a book by Leila Lalami. It was a nonfiction book. I am forgetting the name, something to do with citizenship. And it was good. Mostly, I would say, just okay. I do really want to read her novel, The Moor's Account, which was a finalist for the Pulitzer Prize for fiction, but I have not gotten around to it yet. I do think I would be more likely, just on this snap analysis, to read The Moor's Account first. And if I respond to that one, explore a little further. Because maybe if I like The Moor's Account, I can get around my sort of knee-jerk aversion to speculative fiction. I occasionally I will dip a toe in something like science fiction-y or speculative fiction-y, because I do think it's important to get outside of your comfort zone and try other things. And I have heard good things about Dream Hotel. I remember a couple of people telling me that they were very disappointed that Dream Hotel didn't make it onto the shortlist for the Women's Prize for Fiction. So it might be a good way to go. I feel like the safer route for me would be to back on up, read The Moor's Account, and if I like it, come back to The Dream Hotel by Leila Lalami. So that's where I'm at. And if you have read The Dream Hotel and want to make a case for it, again, hit the comment section. Next is Confessions by Catherine Airy. I have never heard of this book, so let's see what it's about. The debut from new voice Catherine Airy has been widely praised. Confessions traces the trajectories of 3 generations of women as they experience the weight of the past in all its complexity. In 2001, newly orphaned by 9/11, New Yorker Cora Brady, on the cusp of adulthood, is offered a new life in Ireland, where her parents grew up, by an estranged aunt. Quote, the narrative zips along with the crackling intelligence of Donna Tartt, full of twists and zips and genuine surprises. end quote, says the Irish Independent. I have only attempted one Donna Tartt book, but the word attempted probably lets you know how that went. That was The Goldfinch. At some point for my Pulitzer Prize project, I will go back and attempt a reread of The Goldfinch where I get through it, but I have seen interviews with Donna Tartt where she comes across really well. She's a huge fan of the book True Grit, which I am a big fan of. She actually reads the audio of it and does a good job. So I'm not completely averse to Donna Tartt, but DNFing The Goldfinch does make me hesitate a little bit when they compare it to the crackling intelligence of Donna Tartt. She is intelligent, so I'm not going to let that put me off the book. Sidebar over. Quote, Confessions is an astonishing and remarkable novel and truly deserving of all the accolades coming its way, end quote, The Guardian says. The book is a saga. Its serious pleasures are its expansiveness and range, and Aries' rare particular instinct for scenes or worlds that are interesting to be with, from 1970s New York art kids to early female gamers, end quote. Confessions, it concludes, is a cool, bold image of female pain and liberation. That sounds pretty interesting to me. So I'm inclined to check to see if it's available in the United States, if maybe my library has a copy, or if there's an audio that would be available for me, because that sounds like something I would be interested in. If you've read it, I would really love to hear what you thought of it. And maybe before I full on commit, I would check some other reviews of the book, but the description is interesting and really catching my attention. So we have one more book. I'm double checking. Yes, one more book, and that is Flesh by David Zalé. This book was on one of the other, I think it was the New York Times' best books of 2025. By the way, I will have links to other videos I've done on the best of 2025 so far. And in July, when Joel and I get back from our trip, we will be doing our own best books of 2025 so far. So stay tuned for that as well. So it was on, I believe, the New York Times list. And I clearly didn't jump on it from that, but let's see what they have to say and maybe it will challenge that. Zalé's most celebrated work, All That Man Is, which was shortlisted for the Booker Prize in 2016, explored 21st century manhood through the lives of 9 different men. One man's journey from teen to adulthood is the subject of Flesh. We first meet 15-year-old Istvan in Hungary, where he lives with his mother. Then, as he begins a relationship with a much older woman that has tragic consequences, joins the army, and then rises to the top of London society. With Flesh, Zalé employs an even more pared-down version of his spare, minimalist prose to explore the meaning of a life. Quote, Flesh is about more than just the things that go unsaid, end quote, writes The Guardian. It is also about what is fundamentally unsayable, the ineffable things that sit at the center of every life, hovering beyond the reach of language. The Observer praises Flesh's, quote, searing insight into the way we live now, end quote, calling it a masterpiece. I think I did look up other reviews and I just didn't feel immediately compelled to read Flesh. It does sound like it could be interesting. So this is another case where I'm going to kick it back to you. If you have read All That Man Is, if you have read Flesh, let me know what you thought of it. And I feel like I could be convinced to read it. There are definitely other books on the list that I am gravitating to more strongly and would probably, well, not probably, would likely get to first, but I could be convinced. So if you've read this or any other work of David Zalé, let me know what you thought about it in the comment section down below. So that is it for the list of the 12 best books of 2025 so far, according to BBC Culture. Again, if you have thoughts about things that should be on this list or recommendations based on this list or my interest in any of these books, let's make the comment section a resource for people to discover great new books. And as always, I really appreciate your time. I will be back. Until next time, happy reading.